Who are you an assistant for? That was the first question Karen Blackstone blurted out, right as the black woman stepped into the HOA meeting room, loud enough for everyone to hear. Soft enough that if you called her on it, she'd probably act like you'd misheard. Seemed like a harmless question, but that was the exact moment her carefully curated world started to crack. Karen perched at the head of that glossy mahogany table, like she was the queen of Meadowbrook Heights, couldn't have known this wasn't just another guest. This was the one person who could turn her little fiefdom upside down. The kind of person whose mere presence makes folks who've been smug for too long finally realize they should be nervous. You think it ended with some awkward glances and muttered apologies? Not a chance. Before the week was out, Karen's name was splashed across every paper in the county, and I swear you couldn't have written a better twist if you tried. And just wait, by the end of this, you'll see why nobody who was there ever forgot that Tuesday, or how it changed the whole meaning of justice in our neighborhood. Let me back up a sec. That day was one of those Georgia afternoons where the air clings to you and even the AC seems to be waving a white flag. I was late 10 minutes, maybe more, to the HOA's monthly circus, which looking back was exactly the right time to show up. Walking through those heavy doors, I could feel the eyes on me, some measuring, some judging, some just plain curious. Most of the folks were your typical HOA crowd, white middle-aged, the kind who love to gripe about property taxes over their Starbucks, but secretly enjoy the comfort that comes from knowing everyone on their block drives the same kind of SUV. Karen was in full form, perfectly pressed blazer, not a hair out of place, Rolex catching the fluorescent light every time she gestured. She didn't miss a thing. Her pale blue eyes swept over the room until they landed on me. Then came the little whisper to Mrs. Peterson, her right hand in the campaign to keep Meadowbrook Heights exclusive. I caught enough of it cleaning service, probably lost wrong meeting. Years of having to smile through slights like that trained me well. So I just sat back, row quietly, soaking it in. The tension in the room ratcheted up when Karen Voice All Business called the meeting to order. And with the first agenda item barely introduced, she zeroed in. "Excuse me, I don't believe we've been introduced. Who are you an assistant for?" The whole place went silent. So quiet, I could hear the clock tick and the distant shout of kids at the playground outside. My phone buzzed with a text from my old marketing director, Derek Morrison, fired for sexual harassment and still obsessed with making trouble. "Today you'll regret it, boss." I ignored it. I had bigger fish to fry. I met Karen's gaze, voice even, but with just enough ice. "I'm a guest," I said. "Here by invitation." That ruffled her. "Oh, and what company do you represent? Maintenance, maybe?" Cleaning the condescension could have choked a horse. The secretary's pen stalled mid-word. Marcus Rodriguez. The only friendly face in the room winced, and a few committee members shifted like they suddenly wished they'd sat further away. Now, I'd been underestimated plenty of times growing up in foster care and boardrooms at Harvard, even in my own company's lobby. Folks like Karen are always convinced people like me belong somewhere out of sight. But I don't do out of sight. I do center stage. I took a breath, reached into my purse, pulled out my business card, gold-embossed Wellington Development Group CEO, set it gently on the table. Jennifer, the secretary, read it aloud, voice-catching. You could have heard a pin drop. 60% of the land in Meadowbrook Heights. Yeah, that's us. And now every head in that room was spinning. Karen's included, her face running through the 5 stages of "oh crap" in record time. All of a sudden, I was everybody's new best friend. Marcus was grinning. Jennifer's eyes were wide as saucers. Even Karen managed to stammer, "What an honor to have such a distinguished guest." That pause before distinguished, you could drive a truck through it. But I wasn't done. Just bought 1247 Elm Street closed yesterday. Looking forward to being an active part of the community. That landed like a second punch now. I wasn't just the CEO, I was their neighbor. Karen's smile stretched tighter. "We maintain very high standards here." I smiled back. "I'm eager to learn all about them." The message was clear. I wasn't going anywhere, and I had every intention of shaking up their status quo. 2 weeks later, after settling into my sleek new place, my Tesla in the driveway, and not a box left to unpack, I got my first welcome letter. Front door, color, 2 shades too dark apparently. Karen's signature flourished at the bottom. I just laughed. I'd already had every regulation combed by my lawyers before I'd even made an offer. The next violation came 3 days later. My fence was 3 centimeters too high. 3. I almost admired the creativity. But there wasn't a single bylaw to back her up. Karen was making it up as she went, praying I'd roll over. What Karen never expected was that I'd do my own digging, found out she'd been fired from her old law firm by a black CEO for exactly the kind of behavior she was now bringing here. Guess old habits die hard. That night, staring at the photo of my adoptive parents, the Wellingtons, I felt their encouragement. They'd always told me to be the change no one expects. That next morning, after a heads up from Marcus about Karen's not-so-subtle campaign to poison the well, I sent a little email to the HOA board, full audit request, transparency, the whole 9 yards. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk except Karen, who just doubled down with another violation. Apparently, my aggressive communication style was now a problem. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so predictable. Emergency HOA meeting. Karen, standing front and center, binder full of evidence, PowerPoint locked and loaded. You gotta give it to her. The dedication to petty bureaucracy was almost artistic. My lawyer, David Chen, sat beside me, cool as a cucumber. Karen's big speech was a parade of fake rules and blurry photos, ending with a proposed $8,000 fine. I took the floor, thanked her for her hard work, and then let David pull up our presentation HOA bylaws in full line by line. Turns out 60% of Karen's violations were total fiction, and she'd been exceeding her authority for months. And then the twist. Jennifer, who barely spoke above a whisper in any meeting, stood up and dropped a bomb. Karen had tried to get her to falsify voting records for last year's board election. Emails, instructions, the works. Karen's "that's not true" didn't even make it off her tongue before Marcus added, I always wondered how you won, Karen, when a dozen of us voted against you. David made it official. We had grounds for complaints to the state local authorities. You name it. The room was electric, folks speaking up, eyes on Karen, years of frustration boiling over. And then my phone buzzed again. Derek Morrison, now going by Channel 7 News, threatening to expose me for reverse racism on live TV. Yeah, that happened. Within an hour, I was headline news. Prominent CEO accused of reverse racism and hostile work environment. Sensational journalism at its worst. Derek had even doctored security footage from the office, edited out all the context, and found a couple of old employees to swear I was a monster. My company's stock dipped, clients freaked, and for about 2 hours it felt like the world was caving in. But Marcus called, voice urgent. Did you know Derek and Karen have been in contact for months? This wasn't just Karen acting out, this was a coordinated hit job with her old law firm throwing money around because they wanted to knock Wellington Development out of a big Atlanta project. Marcus and Jennifer dug up even more phone records, bank transfers, all the receipts. Karen had given Derek access to confidential documents and my HOA application. The attack had been plotted from the moment I'd walked in that first night. By the next HOA meeting, word had spread. Room-packed, neighbors, news crews, everybody ready for a showdown. Karen tried to act confident, calling the meeting to order with cameras rolling, but when I took the floor and played audio recordings of her phone calls with Derek, discussing how to destroy that woman's reputation, the mask finally fell. Then I pulled up bank records, emails, even proof that Derek had gotten $15,000 from her old firm. The final blow, I revealed I wasn't just CEO, I was heir to the Wellington Foundation, about to launch a legal fund for victims of housing discrimination. Karen lost it, screaming about how she built this community and that people like me would ruin it all. That moment, broadcast live, became the story of the year. Marcus stood steady as ever and called for Karen's immediate resignation. Jennifer seconded. The vote was unanimous. Security walked Karen out. She was still ranting about conspiracies. The neighborhood wasn't just changed, it was reborn. 6 months later, kids of every background were playing in a new park built with foundation money. Mrs. Hyun's Vietnamese restaurant was the local favorite. Marcus's bookstore had doubled as a library, and Jennifer finally brought order to the chaos. Even Karen wrote me from prison, a shaky apology, part explanation, part therapy homework. I wrote her back, inviting her to help with the foundation's new rehab program for former bigots. Yeah, it shocked everyone. But real justice isn't about crushing enemies, it's about changing the game. Now, the house I bought to escape is the home where I built something bigger. a place where the hardest stories lead to the best changes. I keep my parents' photo by the door, and every time a new neighbor brings over homemade spring rolls or a pie, I know they'd be proud. The town paper called it From Discrimination to Celebration. But I know the real story is about what happens when regular people choose courage over comfort and decide to build bridges instead of walls. So tell me, what would you have done in my shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This story's not just mine. It's yours too. If you believe in the power of speaking up, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that real change starts one brave voice at a time.